Hello. It's almost that time. Please, please, please tag and share. Tag and share. You know how this community works. We need a little help sometimes, and tagging and sharing is the perfect way to help me. I'm gonna wait for you guys to join on with me. Hello, let's see who's on here with us. I don't see anything. I need to redo this. Oh, there we go. I got it now. Yay! Sometimes it takes me a little while. Hey, Nicole, thanks for watching. Hey, Michelle, I always appreciate you tuning in every week. You're so supportive. Thank you again. Please continue to tag and share. For those of you that are just tuning in for the first time, my name is Rita Fuller-Yates, and I'm your homegirl and lifestyle expert. One of the things that we try to do is to provide you with tools and resources so that you can improve your daily lifestyle. And today I have a challenging topic that we're going to talk about with some power hitters from the city. We're talking about faith and design. And for those of you that know about being an artist, it's not always easy to be an artist, but you add being a Christian and faith in the mix, it's something astronomical that happens. Sometimes we put our preacher children in positions that they do not deserve. And we have two preacher's children that are with us today that's going to add value in the conversation so that our community, primarily the African American community, can continue to improve. I have Jocelyn Clark, who is the first daughter of pastor, one of the best pastors, he's actually my bishop, Timothy Clark. And I also have Sybil Wise, who is the daughter of Dexter Wise. I'm so excited to sit down with these two ladies to not only learn more about what they do in the arts, but to dig deeper into the challenges that they had as a preacher's kid, but even more importantly, what we can do as a community to help improve the mindsets of a preacher kid. It's not easy. You're not going to want to miss this information. It's going to be about an hour of full conversation, genuine, authentic. Stay tuned.
Yo, it's about to go down, and it ain't nothing you can do about it. You know what time it is. It's all about bringing social home again. You know, like grandma's on Sunday. And now, welcoming you home again, it's my homegirl, your lifestyle expert, Rita Fuller-Yates.
My name is Rita Fuller-Yates, and I am your lifestyle expert. Welcome to Home Again.
Today's episode is brought to you by Vision Realty. Log on to www.visionrealty.com and contact Don Payne for all of your real estate needs. Also brought to you by Politically Savvy, a new political talk show hosted by Gail Dudley, coming to Home Again TV in January 2020.
Thanks for tuning in. As you can see, one of our sponsors for this week is Vision Realty. We love some Don Payne. We love what he's doing for the community. And if you're looking for a home or looking to sell your home, I would definitely look him up. Don Payne and Don Payne Jr. Thank you for tuning in. Thanks, Don Payne Jr. Just plugged you a little bit, boo. Hey, Nadine Barfield, thank you for joining us. Felicia Smith, thank you. Hey, Tanya Word, I know why you on here. Thank you guys for tuning in. We thank you for spending your Sunday evening with us. We have a great topic that we want to dig deep into, so I don't want to spend a lot of time. We're talking about the arts and faith, primarily how the arts constantly are evolving in the community as well as in the church. But more importantly, we have some preachers' children who are now adults, and we want to speak candidly with them about their experience as children of very popular pastors and what they experienced in the challenges of the church. And I think this is big to talk about because I don't think we want to constantly continue to have preachers' children who hurt. Is that true?
Yes.
Okay. So please introduce yourself
Hi.
to our wonderful audience. Explain who you belong to, what church you belong to,
Yes.
so that they know who we're speaking to.
Yes. Hello, everyone. Good to be here. I'm Sybil Skye. I am the daughter of Dr. C. Dexter Wise, Faith Ministries Church. And we celebrated our 28th anniversary today. So, 28 years here in Columbus, Ohio. So,
Congratulations to you and your family.
Thank you.
That's huge.
I'm Jocelyn Clark. I am the daughter of Bishop Timothy J. Clark and Clytemnestra Clark, and we are part of First Church of God in Columbus, Ohio, down the street on Refugee Road.
Thank you, ladies, for joining us for this conversation. We want to be respectful to the ministry, as I mentioned to you before, but I want to make sure that we're being honest because as time evolves, we want to get better. We don't want to continue to make the same mistake generation after generation. So we're going to first talk about the arts. All of us are artists. All of us are interior designers.
Yes.
It's just something about space that makes you happy.
You walk into a space and you just can feel it.
Yeah.
You can feel it, can't you?
Yeah.
What's been one of your most inspiring spaces that has done that for you, that you can remember?
I would say my mother's office. When I redid my mom, it was a little old school, older. It was from when we first came to the building, which was like 20 years ago. And so she gave me the opportunity to recreate her space. It was like one of the spaces I've ever done. And people just could not believe that how big of a change it made and what a difference it made. It made people feel good. They kept saying, when I come in here, I feel so good and comfortable and cozy. So that was probably my biggest project or experience.
Well, I don't think a lot of people relate their space to how they feel.
Absolutely.
And I mean, it's so underrated
Absolutely.
how a space coincides with emotion.
Absolutely.
And what about you? What has been your best experience regarding space?
Well, I guess I'm very similar. My whole portfolio is our church.
Yeah.
Since I was a designer, I always tell people anything that you can see or touch, I either put it there or had somebody put it there. So I guess that's kind of my muse. And I feel that's where God allows me to be my most creative. And I'm thankful for my parents for giving me freedom, even though a lot of times they're afraid when I'm like, let's do teal blue leather. And they're like, what? But it's gorgeous. And everybody loves it. But, I'm able to be free and kind of let God just download how he would like for the space to be. So.
Well, I like the word free, but we all know being a part of the church, especially being the staple of the church, you're in the family of the church, you're held to a different standard, even when in regards to the church. Can we talk about the evolution of the arts? When, let's say, we only had the choir. That was the only form of arts.
Yeah.
Well, how was you as a child dealing with being limited to what you could do in the arts in church?
Well, as a child, I was always a singer, so I started singing when I was 1. So that choir was like my life anyway. I was excited about that. But as I grew up and I went to school, I went to Spelman College in Atlanta, so there was so much more culture down there, especially in the Christian community. the church that I went to there had a step team. So when I came back in 1996, I was like, hey, Dad, let's do a step team. And he was like, what is that? And I'm like, it's really great. We have one in our church. So I started one, but there wasn't any other step team in the Columbus area.
I can almost remember that.
Yeah. And
well, I didn't know
it was,
where it derived from.
it was really radical and crazy back then. People were saying that I was not of God and that, you know, our church was doing all this crazy stuff that was outside. Today, every church got a step team or is completely normal. But back then, it was like you had to really just push through and accept that you were going to be chastised for doing something different.
And why do you think that is? Do you think that's the stigma of what we said church is? Where does this come from? Help me out. Now, mind you, these are not bishops. These are children who happen to be privileged to the crumbs. That's how I almost say it. Just like people who have businesses, their children are privileged to the crumbs.
Yeah.
Where do you think all this comes from?
You know what? I don't know. If I could go back and just think about where this started, how did this come about? Why do people feel like I don't know. To be honest, Rita, I can't really even figure. You just go with it as a PK. You know your limits, what you can and can't do. But I don't know. What do you think?
Oops, I forgot about limits.
Sorry.
I was always pushing them.
Oh, yeah.
I was a limit
as a
pusher.
PK child.
As just a person.
Oh.
I just happened to be a PK.
Pushing the limits. Yeah.
I've always been a limit pusher in terms of questioning. Well, why is that?
Mm-hmm.
Why do we have to do that? You know, what is the reason for that? You know, just that was just my personality. And thankfully, my dad in most instances was very progressive. He was the first ever Christian rapper. So he was already progressive.
Yeah.
Okay.
So there were a lot of things that he allowed in our church that were like not necessarily normal because he was pretty revolutionary in his own day too.
But it almost takes that in order for the church to evolve. Like you said, now everyone has dance teams.
Yeah.
But if you didn't have the courage to say, look, let's change, let me just try it, then again, I wouldn't have been a dancer in the church. That was one of the first things that I enjoyed doing in the church because I always loved movement. But if they didn't have that opportunity, you would have been forced to do something that you really aren't anointed to do, just to fit in and be involved.
Yeah. And you have to, I think pastors always think too, if it will be accepted in the congregation, because you have so many age groups. You have your older generation that's used to a certain style of church, and so bringing in something new as far as dance, to them it's like those girls are up there gyrating, shaking, shaking their butts, or being inappropriate in front of men. So I think it's just pastors are mindful more of age groups and how it's going to be accepted. I think that.
And each church has their own culture.
Yes.
Too.
Yeah.
Like some culture, and they usually follow the guidance of the pastor. So each pastor has their own thing that their house is known for,
Absolutely.
or how their congregation kind of is.
I agree with that.
So, some churches are just like, no makeup, no nothing, skirts to the floor. Others are like, we don't care about that, praise Jesus. So, it kind of just depends on what your experience was for your particular church.
I think one thing that I think about the church is and we're going to shift a little bit more towards you guys being preachers' children, but I think one of the challenges we have is the expectation that the church puts on the preacher's children. Knowing that we know that you're just someone's child. We know that. When we systematically sit down and think about it, what do you think that we can do to begin to change the trajectory of what we think about preacher's children?
I think understanding that we're no different than your children are. We're no different than how you raise your children. I think people put pressures on pastors as far as their households, as if they should be perfect. You know, you're the pastor, so we expect your wife to be perfect. We expect your children to be perfect, and it's not fair. I don't think to the children, because we're just the same. Our parents have a calling, and God is using them. But it doesn't necessarily mean that the children are also called. You know.
Great point.
Yeah, and I think people kind of just put you in that box, like your father is a certain way, so you need to be a certain way. You just have to be presented in a certain way. But, yeah.
That's absolutely 100% true.
Well, we had talked earlier too about, I think what's unfair is it seems like y'all have a trained system of, and I don't know what age that starts.
Birth.
It
starts at birth.
Y'all hear this? From birth.
It
We're putting this pressure, unnecessary pressure, on human beings. Well, you weren't, like you said, you weren't called, you just happened to be birthed into the family. What is it that you think, again, one of the challenges, let me talk about this. One of the things I think about when I think about God is when you come to become a Christian, it's supposed to eventually make you pure, right? And I think in the system, let's say, like in my example, I became saved in my late 20s. At that point, you almost have to prove something to somebody that you have changed or you've evolved. And so now I'm putting on, rather you did or not, you've got it now, because now I've been going to church for 2 years. So something needs to have changed. So then you start creating almost errors. So now this is me late 20s. Yeah. Is that how y'all feel from the very beginning of life?
I would probably say I personally have never been like that. But in terms of being trained, like I was saying earlier, I think any profession that is in the public eye kind of has a certain degree of the quote-unquote training that you're talking about, because especially in the religious sector, there is an expectation of piety, of purity, as you're saying, of the household being just as anointed. So there is that, you better sit here and you better get it together, and you know, and I think that any person who has a parent in the public eye, celebrity, politician, religious sector, anything like that, can probably say they have experienced it to a certain degree. But we get it a little bit more because of the religious side, that you're supposed to be so holy and so whatever. And so therefore, there's a little extra sauce put on to it.
Well, I think what's unfair, again, is us doing that. But you having to create that, whether it's done for other industries or not, we're talking about the church. So we have to change that pattern, because again, we're talking about generations of people who are going to be demotivated from doing what God calls them to do because of the examples that they see and heard that they have doing that role. It has to change in our community and how we see you. I believe that your mom, explain, we're going to talk a little bit about this. Let me ask that. What is it that, you told me a little bit, what is it that your mom did to help create the different synergy?
So I believe that it starts from the head, which is the pastor, in the life, and what you allow people to do to your family, or what you allow people to say to your family. So I was saying, growing up, my mom never made us feel like we couldn't do normal things, or even my dad, you know, he would let me do things, go to the school dance, if I didn't want to. But you know what I mean? It was like, I'm gonna let you live your life, and I'm gonna let you do things. And I will say this too, salvation wasn't forced on me. Yes, I will say that. I think that's important too. I think sometimes pastors force religion and salvation. I was able to find and seek a relationship with God on my own. I got saved when I wanted to. I got saved when I felt the call to get saved, or when I felt the call to get baptized. So I think that's important. But going back, my mom would tell people, my children are the same as your children. You're not going to, make my child any better than what your child is, or you're not going to put my child on a pedestal. They're going to do everything your child does. And the way you discipline your child, I'll discipline mine, but don't expect me to do more or anything different because of who my child is. And I think that's important as well.
So I think that's a lesson for the First Lady.
Yeah.
And giving the First Lady permission to take a stand for their own children. Because you can only imagine the weight of the church on the First Lady. And then you have their opinion about not only how you mother, but what the expectation is for the children. I mean, Jesus.
Yeah, your children should be in little frilly dresses and bow ties.
I like those though. I picked out my own t-shirt and bow tie socks. Oh wow.
And be so perfect and but it's just not realistic.
It's not.
A child is a child. And it's not realistic to put expectations on children that they know nothing about. They don't even know this is what I'm expected to do at a young age. And I think I try to be mindful of that with my son, because he is Bishop Clark's grandson, that certain expectations are put on him because of who he is, that he's a normal kid, he does normal things, and my father and my mother are good with that as well, as letting them be children.
What about you? You have children?
I do.
And
I
what
have
are
two
their
kids.
ages?
I have one who's 20, Anye, and then the oldest is Angela, and she'll be 23 next week. Happy birthday!
Have you noticed a shift in the generations? Because what has been the biggest change?
Well, for me, again, I am not the same type of mother. Necessarily, I'm very free in how I talk to them. I'm very realistic, sometimes too down to earth maybe, but I raised them to be their own person, and not necessarily to have to go according to somebody else's description of what your life should be.
Did you feel that was what was done to you?
To a degree, yeah. I believe that there were certain things that were like, this is what it is, this is what it's gonna be, this is how it's gonna be, And so even like everyone in my whole family immediately got college degrees. Everybody, you're going to college. It wasn't a question. It was, okay, you graduated. Now, which college are you going to? Not, are you going to college?
That was the decision.
Yeah. So like my oldest daughter, Angela, she's at Ohio State and she's in culinary science. She went to the Institute of Art in Chicago for culinary school, and she's about to finish in culinary and nutrition, I think is her minor. But she chose that path, and I gave her that option. My youngest daughter was like, look, Mom, I'm not going to waste your money. I'm not going to school. So she got a cosmetology license, and she's been in a shop for a year, and she's doing very well. If you need lashes and brows and all of that stuff. So she does that. She kind of went against what everybody else was doing, even as far as like tattoos and piercings and oh my God, even though I never did the tattoos and stuff,
But they're artists, so both your daughters are also artists.
So, but I let them express themselves. They're grown-ups now. There's only so much that I'm going to, be like, hey, if they go way out, then we need to talk about it. But for the most part, you're an adult,
Are they able to use their arts in the church, like your daughter with her? Does she do lashes and brows and cooking? That's good.
And so none of that stigma is still there. Is that correct? Like, we can all... Well, we'll just talk about y'all's churches.
Oh, yeah.
Is that a stigma in y'all's church? The way that people wear their makeup or the way they dress or their hair? All of these are all the arts.
Right. Well, you have to realize that when I was growing up originally, we were at another church that was extremely Baptist, like straight Baptist, way back in the day in the early 80s. And we weren't allowed to wear pants. And it came to like when I was in middle school and it was summertime and me and my dad used to have it out every Sunday. I was like, I am not wearing these stockings in this summer heat. So, you know, we had to have a come to Jesus meeting. And I was like, look, I will wear pants and not wear stockings. Or I will wear a dress with no stockings.
Those were his options.
And he was like, wear pants. So then I started wearing pants. And so then people started wearing pants.
Yeah.
Wait a minute, that's civilized trying to say it. But I mean, that's kind of how it happened because I was like, look, you have got to be kidding with these stockings. It's not going to happen.
Is that really that big of a deal? What does
Way back then?
Yeah, I get it.
Yeah.
But
Well, I mean,
really,
you
when
know,
you think about it.
I don't know. Each church has their own beliefs, and
I think they said because men wore pants and it wasn't a woman's place.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's where that came from.
Oh.
Yeah, because it was a manly, masculine thing.
Oh, okay.
and then
Yeah.
the women's movement kind of has
Yeah.
progressed as well.
Yeah.
But we're no longer at that church. So a lot of the things that were like stigmas there, we're free to do at this church.
Yeah.
So
And I noticed a change from 115 to Wilson. 115 Wilson to where we are now. Like the choir wore robes and no earrings and very limited makeup. But when we got to Refugee Road, it's a different type of people. You're not dealing with the same, and more people started coming. We went from hundreds to thousands. So you got a little bit of everything. And I think once that started taking place, everybody got a little bit more free. It wasn't, we still have people, even on Sundays, you'll see, it's so funny, you'll see people in their hats, and then you'll see people with jeans on. So I think the transition and the change to the new building helped us to be a little bit more free.
And that was huge.
Yeah.
Because that was actually when I first joined. And that was when I was learning about being a Christian because I came from a Catholic background. But what I remember most is that they felt that moving to another community was going to leave the community. And I found it so funny that it really grew the community tremendously. And it engaged different type of people. And I loved it. I loved that.
Yeah.
I loved that. Because I always felt a little different coming from a Catholic background.
Yeah.
And I didn't dress like that.
Yeah.
And I remember some of the ladies like, and I'm like, I'm here. Be thankful. I'm so listening.
at least be thankful for your friends.
Yeah, I love it too. I just laugh sometimes when I see all the variety of people. It's just like not one type of church, and I like that.
I do too.
We're not going to be dressed up because I wore a pantsuit last Sunday, and I was like, oh, I probably should have did this because everybody's wearing pants. But I was comfortable. I was presentable, and it is what it is.
Well, your beautiful sister set the tone in a lot of fashionable ways.
Now, she and my dad.
I'm like, I'm sitting here like, oh, she
Now I remember
Dad
She was different. I'm a
you
little bit more,
sparkly.
I'm a little bit more submitted. I'm a little bit more, okay, I'll do. But my sister, she had this thing with my dad. He would get so mad with stockings.
hello.
Dee, where are you going with them stockings on? And she's like, well, Michelle Obama became, when she wears some outfit or something. He's like, my sister was tatted up, and my dad like just, so she was her own person. She would wear neon yellow, whatever. And people loved her though,
They
loved her, and they would, be like, now where'd you get that from? They would want to know where she got that from because they liked her style. But my dad used to be like, this girl, but she was just who she was. She was just an outgoing personality.
But that's what we're talking about is giving permission for the Christian who also happens to be an artist. I mean, because being a creative isn't easy. You really need Jesus when you're a creative person because of the way we think.
Yes.
But at the same time, we don't want to feel like we're totally strange. We just happen to be different,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
So tell us a little bit about your experience as preacher's kids. What was the hardest part for you?
I think the hardest part for me was going away to school and coming back.
Because now your eyes have been opened.
Well, no, because when you go away to school, you become your own person. I wasn't Dr. Wise's daughter. I was Sybil. You know what I'm saying? And people knew me for me, and they either accepted me or they didn't. I don't have a lot of people who are middle ground with me. Either you like it or you don't.
Yeah.
But I was my own person. And when I came back, it's like you feel the confinement again. And I think for me, I have been kind of trying to break out of that for 20 years still. And not that I don't respect and love my parents, they're awesome. And there are so many people who would die to be in my position. So I honestly am thankful for who I am and who I've become. But even at 4,500 years old, I'm still Dr. Wise's daughter. I'm not a woman who is a business owner, who is an entrepreneur, who is a mother, who has done several things for the community, who is helping people to do things every day. And a lot of times, I don't lead with that.
Wow, so when people are looking from the outside in, I'm just like, that's so cool that she gets to be his daughter. I mean, that's so cool that everywhere they go, they're represented. I mean, but to you guys, to sit with you guys, it's not as cool as I think.
Well, it has its perks
It
now.
has its perks.
Come on now.
And
I
that's
live without a wise when I have to. If I had to live on a wise, I'd be like, hold on, my nigga. I am to the sky, however. That is wise.
So
Like,
you
yeah,
know it's
yeah,
foul.
yeah.
You know it's foul.
It is.
Because you're just like your mom.
I know. And my mom hates it. She's like, girl, don't be out here with short skirts on and doing stuff because they're gonna think
They do.
and people do. Like they really think of my mom, and I tell sometimes I just go with it. I'd be like, yeah, hi, how are
Well,
you?
your mom didn't age.
My mom is not aged.
So it sort of jacked you up.
I look old, she looks young. But it's the truth,
It's
though.
the
You know,
truth.
people know Clark, and sometimes I don't want to use it because I'm like, they're gonna ask me if I'm related to
And they
Bishop
always
Clark.
do.
That's the first thing they say. If I say,
Do
oh,
they?
Every time.
And isn't that a common name though?
no, but I guess in the city of Columbus, if you have the last name Clark,
That's
Are
what
you?
they just.
Clark, are you related to Bishop Clark?
So you just
And I
get
get
ready
that
as soon
all-
as you say your name.
Yes, and I'm always so. But it does. It's annoying sometimes because it's like you want to be your own person and you want to be your own individual. But it also has its perks.
It
like
has
you
its
said.
perks.
There's places that I can get into because of my last name, or you know, there's opportunities that I get because of my last name. So you take the good with the bad.
You kind of just balance it out.
Yeah, you do.
So if you had to put yourself in your parents' shoes, what is it that you'll do different to get different results?
I would say, well, again, like I was telling you earlier, there are 4 of us. I am the most fabulous of 4. So
And you are where at in the
I'm the most fabulous. I have 3 that came after me. But anyway, so I'm the most
What's the
fabulous
age
of 4.
difference?
My
The second
next
one.
sister is 2 years younger.
Oh, so you grew up with her too?
Oh yeah,
I
we're
remember you
all
grew up
very close
with
in
her
age.
child.
No.
For a
So
while.
between me and my youngest brother is 7 years.
Oh, okay.
So we're all kind of piled up together. So we all grew up together and kind of went through this whole thing together. So I would probably say because they are so much more in line with the ministry side, even though, mind you, people always see me and they're like, okay, she's flamboyant. Literally, I wore this to church today, whatever. But, I mean, it's just what it is. So, I mean,
Church is evolving.
honey, well, I'm involved. This is gonna be it. People know, okay, this is Sybil, just let her be that. But, I
Did your
would say,
parents ever get any slack for you?
Yeah.
I'm probably sure they have. Come on now.
Is it more of where they're like, you're not gonna, are they more do they defend you?
Well, it depends. Sometimes yes, sometimes no. My mother, she wrote a book called I'm Sick and Tired of Being a Minister's Wife. So she has limits of how far things are gonna go with her. She's like, yeah, y'all, I'm tired of this anyway. And so I would probably say even though I know my dad was very progressive, my mom was very much like, listen, this whole women ministry thing, the wives, she never wore hats. That was a big thing.
No,
she did not wear hats, and they were like, that is not okay, at that first church we were at. And so, I would probably say, even from their perspective, with me being the glitter sheep of the family and not being in the direct ministry, because everybody else is a minister, like reverend, all my brothers and sisters. So, but I'm not.
Do you expect to at any point?
I mean, here's the thing. I don't think that you have to be a reverend in order to be a minister. Mm-hmm. Our motto is welcome home, Faith Ministries Church, where every member is a minister. So every member is a minister of something, and you pick which ministry you want to be in. So I have my ministries, but that doesn't mean that I necessarily have to be behind a pulpit preaching, hooping and hollering in order to be a minister. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I am very much in ministry everywhere I go, even if it's at the club. I'm bringing somebody to church with me on Sunday. So it's just, I don't necessarily feel I have to do it that way. Okay. Now, will I say God won't call me and smack me down and say I have to do it? I never say never.
Right.
But at this time, that's not really how I feel like that.
I see that. I can see that. What about you?
As far as
the discipline of being a preacher's kid and being able to think about how the church perceives you.
See, I am like so. I don't want to say I'm like the good preacher's kid, but there's really nothing that I do that would ever be questioned. I think the training, it goes back to the whole training piece. I know how to act in church. I know how to behave. I know what to do. I know when to turn it on. I know when to turn it off. So I don't know if the perception of me.
Well, let's talk about that on and off thing.
Yeah.
Because that's sort of what we were saying is somewhat unhealthy. Because as human beings, when you go to work, you're not always the same as you are at home. So there's always variance. She works in church.
And I did for decades. I worked at church for decades, yes.
Yeah, Monday through Friday.
You do work for the church.
And I did for 20 years.
Yeah.
So I think that is difficult within itself when so many people believe the church is this way.
Yeah.
But we all know the reality of what the church really is. And then you being the children in the mix of it all, and they expect for you to be a certain way. I just think that the expectations need to change.
Yeah.
And that dialogue needs to constantly be apparent so that we can stop taking that stigma, putting that stigma on the family of the church.
Yeah, but I do. I think it starts with your parents. I do. I think whatever ministry they go into, they have to set the tone for how your family is going to be treated. There has to be rules and regulations for what you're going to say about my family, what the expectations of my family are, and what you're not going to do. And I think once that's put in place, it kind of eliminates a lot of the pressure and a lot of the expectations on the pastor's kids and the family. So,
And then having people in place to help the pastor.
Yes.
Yeah.
It seems that they expect the pastor to be everything to everybody. And I know with as big as y'all's churches are, it's just impossible. What suggestion do you have to people who are just joining the church, who's just expecting that experience with that pastor?
Well, we're pretty after every service, my dad goes and he's either out in the foyer or at the pulpit, at the altar. And he'll stand there for half an hour, 45 minutes, and then he goes to his office for another half an hour, 45 minutes. So they're pretty accessible. Well, my parents are pretty accessible.
Okay.
We're a lot more free in that.
Even as you're getting bigger and bigger, as more people.
He'll just stand there, and if you stand there long enough, if you want to talk to him, you can just talk to him.
Okay.
So it's not, and he'll set meetings and stuff. It's not as rigid. and they're not like swept away. I've seen other churches where they're like swept away and you can't talk to them. And it's not like that at our church. So we don't necessarily have that same experience. So every person who joins the church, the day they join, he'll go into the room when they join and introduce himself and talk to them, and then they do a tour of the first family suite. If we're in there, we'll all say hi and hug them. Yeah. So I mean, it's not like the untouchables.
And I think that's important too. Allowing the church to get to know you, because I'm sure, like there was a lot of, with my sister, because she was just a bulldog. She's sweet as she could be, but she was had a tough exterior, but she would do anything for anybody. And I think once people really got to know her or had a conversation with her, they were like, this girl is really a nice girl, and she's sweet. So I think that's important, to not make assumptions about who we are, to get to know us.
Because you're human first, and everybody in the church has their personality.
Yes, and it's just like, oh, she's mean or she's nasty, she doesn't speak, but did you speak to me, you know? But I think that's important, then getting to know the first family, and my dad's the same way, he's very approachable. Even as large as our church is, he's the same way. He'll greet every single person until they leave the line. He goes to new members classes, and I hate going to the stores with him because he's going to talk to everybody. He's not going to leave anybody untouched. If people come up to him at Easton, he's going to talk to you. So I think that's important, and I think that helps.
What can you guys can recall has been the most painful experience that you've had in church or with the church?
Oh, Lord.
Just name one.
I'm trying to think of one. Well, there is this thing called church hurt. It is a term that people use about being in church and having an experience with someone in the church, and not necessarily the pastor, but someone who's done something to you that's turned you off or completely, a lot of people leave the church because of it. I would probably say the most painful thing for me was when we split from our previous church and my dad started the new church, because we were there for 8 years, I think, something like that. And so you form friendships, and then you see these people who are antagonizing your parents and you, and literally creating this like civil war inside the church. And it's like, what? How can you act like that? You were just my friend. And then if your mother doesn't like what's happening, then the child all of a sudden has to side with the parents, and then you lose friends, and then when you move, then a lot of people don't go with you.
So there was some division.
Quite a bit.
Okay.
But
and how old were you? You were a teenager at that time when that happened?
Yeah, I believe I was a senior in high school, a junior or senior. So I was already like, forget it.
You got to recognize adult strife here.
Yeah, so I knew, and I already knew the backstory. I knew what was really happening. So my younger brothers and sisters, they kind of just were going along with it, and they didn't necessarily know, but I knew what was happening. So it was kind of like, hard. But my mom explained it to us, and she said, as ministers, we're like bus drivers. We drive the bus, we stop at the bus stop. People are going to get on the bus stop, and they're going to get off the bus stop. But no matter who's on the bus, you keep driving. That's how we kind of lived our life from that point. So it wasn't so much who was in our church. And a lot of people come and go, and a lot of people switch churches, and sometimes they come back, and you see them out in the community. And I never am like, oh, you left our church, you're not a member anymore. And I don't care what church you go to. Do you love Jesus? Go somewhere, do something. You know what I'm saying?
You'd be mad all the time. People come and go. They there 1 week, then go. No, you gonna make it. It'd be impossible.
It would be impossible.
You might not even realize when people are gone sometimes.
I don't even acknowledge it because I don't even know for sure a lot of times. But So
now, what about you, Jocelyn?
I would say probably when I had my son at 25, it was just some things said that kind of got back to me that was very hurtful. By people who I know my father had supported when their kids had kind of went through the same thing. So I think that was the most hurtful. Like, my father walked with you through that. And now that it's my turn, you know, I'm the pastor's daughter and she's out there, blah, blah, blah. So I think that was the most hurtful thing over the 25 years I was there that had ever happened.
Do you think that was based on how people perceived you, and they were communicating it through that story? Do you think that was more painful, or?
Yeah, probably so. But I think it's also, like I said, it's the expectation of perfection. You know, I wasn't married, so it's like, she's not married. She's the pastor's daughter. She should be doing certain things. She should be living a certain way. And so I think it was more of that than feeling as if I was wrong or I was the only person that had ever done anything like that in the whole church. And so I think that was a little hurtful because some of the things got back to me. And, you know, you forgive and you move forward, but it's kind of hard to worship with people or see people that you know
Believed like that.
or talk to you, like talk about you like that.
So have you changed your idea, or was that ever a concern for you, for any of you, regarding even the circumstance you went through of having somebody have children out of wedlock? Was that a big concern for you before it happened, say to you? If it happened to some other ministers?
No, only because the way my father treated people, it happened. When I say young girls, I was 25, and young girls in their early teens that were getting pregnant, I didn't have a certain expectation. They were being teenagers. They were doing, you know, what they wanted to do, having fun. But my father never made us feel like they were any less than, or we're going to treat them a certain way because of that. So I think there was one, like, way back on 115 where a young girl had got pregnant. He rallied around her. So it kind of, once again, set the tone for the church that if this were to happen, we're not going to dog, we're going to love, we're going to support. And so that's all I saw. So when it happened to me, I'm like, well, what happened to all, you know, for the people that kind of said things about me, it just kind of, that went out the window.
Yeah, because you were, according to us, you were living at a different standard, which we have to stop that. We have to stop that. Okay. These are human beings that just happen to be birthed into a family who are anointed in ministry. That's it. We should let them grow up like normal children, make mistakes, be mad, be human, without it being a stipulation to your parents' ministry.
Absolutely.
I think that's huge.
Absolutely.
Before we go, I think one of the biggest topics I want to talk about is dating.
Here we go.
That curveball.
Remember when she asked was there anything off limits?
That curveball. I
Oh,
knew it was
Jesus.
coming.
Okay, let's go. Here we
Well,
go.
only because of it being, you know, you are Christians, you are preachers' children. The expectation is crazy anyway. We already talked about that. You infuse dating in there?
Oh,
what did
Lord
that
Jesus.
look like? For one, I remember our conversation.
Yeah.
My brother liked her.
Well.
And all I know, Bishop,
Oh my Lord Jesus.
she liked him. And I remember us having a conversation about it. And I was like, your daddy ain't killing me.
That's what everybody said.
Yeah.
I'm like, why?
But that's so unfair to you.
Yeah.
Because you should be able to decide who's good for you and who's not good for you. But the church decides.
Yeah, they do. They really, really do. Leave that one alone. But, yeah.
I never dated in the church.
You never dated in the
Not in
church.
our own church.
Did people want to date you in the church?
Yeah.
What was the challenge?
Nope. I'm not dating anybody in this church.
It's hard to, if there's a breakup or anything
Yep.
happens, you still have to see that person, or the church knows immediately because you aren't sitting together anymore.
And the
Something must
business.
be wrong, or why aren't they sitting together?
Yeah.
But isn't that all of us? Who goes to church together?
Yeah.
Oh, again, everybody looks at y'all and then
You're
it
not
becomes
sitting on
a
the front
story.
row or, it's different. I wouldn't date, I don't want to say never, but I probably at my age wouldn't date anyone at our church.
I never have. Not one time.
So
But
what
I'll
does
date
dating
someone
look like?
outside of the church and then bring them to the church.
Yeah.
So are you single?
Technically. That is kind
Her
of
sparkle is sparkle
on
everywhere.
Facebook. What is it? It's complicated.
Okay. And what about you?
I am single.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we're all, again, I think you gotta have that conversation because for one, you never know
Yes.
who's listening.
Yeah.
But I don't like men that are intimidated. Like, oh, do you know who her dad is? Like, miss me with that. Because then it's just like you can't handle who he is. Like, get to know him, get to meet him before you make the assumption that it's going to be hard to date me. So.
Well, I think again, thinking on both of y'all's behalves, they know they gotta be tight.
Well.
So I think that's where every man.
And I'm not going to accept any riffraff for this
Because y'all know also, a lot of us didn't even have fathers.
Yeah.
So y'all already know. Plus they tell y'all.
Yeah.
They're telling us.
Yeah.
So y'all don't even get to get away with not even acting like you know
Yeah, that's true.
what it looks like.
You're right about that.
And our parents have both been married for 1,000 years.
Absolutely.
My parents celebrated 46
Yeah,
years.
yeah.
So-
42, yeah.
So,
Now, what are you doing? What are y'all doing before we leave? What are y'all doing different with your children that was done differently to you?
I am allowing my children to have their own personality and not forcing anything on them, but encouraging them to be who they are supposed to be. Now, both of them got businesses.
That's good.
You can pick something, but you're gonna have a business.
Yeah.
But besides that, be who you are and kind of exploring like having adult children is different. We went to our first
That's a whole
party
nother
together.
set.
All three of us were at our first party together. That was an experience. So, but I'm kind of like, okay, cool mom, I guess. So, they brought me on stage and, we were all, old school music came on. They were like, Mom, this is your jam. So it's like kind of being more free and relaxed to just exist and not so much pushing them in any one particular direction.
I like that. What about you?
I think the same thing with my son, allowing him to just be himself, not putting so many expectations on him or making him feel that he can't be a kid, he can't be an 11-year-old. So just allowing him to be free. I also said I would probably, when he gets older, support whatever he decides to do. If that's going in ministry, if it's playing basketball, whatever. Just to be supportive of that and to allow him to make some choices when it comes to his life and what he wants to do with it. Yeah.
Well, I think we have to continue the dialogue of what it means to not only be a Christian, to live in faith, but to also be given permission to be human.
Yeah.
There has to be some tremendous improvement with that conversation because I think honestly, and this is something I need to ask y'all too. Do y'all feel the shift in the church?
Mm-hmm.
Has there been okay, let's talk about that shift. We've got a couple of minutes. What is the shift that you feel?
Well, I think now with more non-denominational, interdenominational churches, that people are beginning to understand that the denominations that have once divided are bringing people back together.
Oh, I like
Because
that.
our church is interdenominational, so we accept any denomination. And so
that
it's really-
opens up the borders for more people to feel accepted. Okay.
And then when you do that, it kind of breaks down a lot of those barriers of having to be any one particular way. Because again, like you were saying, so many different types of people. I mean, we have people who've come in from prison ministries and actually joined.
Yeah.
And so, their existence is not the same as the one who grew up with the church hat. So everybody kind of is together. It's kind of like the American melting pot. It's like a church melting pot.
Yeah.
And it just kind of makes whatever culture that church happens to be. But
That's pretty cool though. When
Yeah.
you think about it, and you think about how God systematically works.
Yeah.
Even my husband and I think we're just sort of cool.
Yeah.
Because this is sort of where Martin Luther King said we should be. You know, at some point, everybody just has to be human. And those are the standards. Now, what about you? What do you think?
I see the shift even in our church, just things that I never thought I would see are happening. Like even with our worship leader wearing ripped jeans and a guitar. I just think our music has shifted. There's just a shift in the type of people that are there, and the flow of worship. Even now, Saturday service, that's been a big change for us, and the families that come. So I definitely see a shift, and it's good. It's a good thing.
So it's just constantly evolving. Being different. Saturday night seems to be better than Sunday morning.
That's my service. I don't even go on Sunday anymore.
Really?
No.
Wow, see?
I go to Saturday night service only.
See, and those that see you don't see you on Sunday.
Yeah,
They're like, she ain't even going to church.
I know how y'all is. I know. She's at church on Saturday at 6.
Yeah, that's what she
He's a church kid. He's like, let me get a ride on Sunday. But it's a different, because the feel is different. It's less, I can wear like last night I wore some leggings to the sweatshirt. And I sat on the second row like that, So that back then would have never happened. And everybody was, my dad preached in a t-shirt, an OSU t-shirt. So I see that evolving, and it's just better. It's good. It's a good shift.
I like that.
I think we're relaxing as church
Yes.
people. That's really what's happening.
That is a great character to have, because we should be more relaxed if we're representing Christ. Because a lot of times, and I'm just speaking on behalf of myself, I get anxiety. Just because you want to adding up to the expectations. But really, it's just love. Just love. Just love.
I am. That's how we are. So, at this point, that's all he really can do. It's the most powerful force on earth. So, why not love?
Well, I think, again, we're going to continue the conversation to make sure that preachers' kids aren't held to this crazy standard that nobody can live up to. That to change the dialogue, but you guys just confessing what it is that's challenging about being a preacher's kid, as well as understanding that the arts are constantly evolving. Characteristics, even gender characteristics are changing. We cannot not love. So as life changes, the church is going to change and constantly evolve. And I love that you guys have been transparent regarding your ministries to talk about it, because that's the first way to at least starting a conversation that we have to treat y'all different. Did y'all hear that? Did y'all hear that? If y'all didn't get anything else from this conversation today, it is really, we have to, as a community, African American community, Caucasian community, whatever church you belong to, is to change the trajectory of what it is and how it is you think of the pastor and his family. They are human beings. They have been called to a bigger calling to express God's word. And that is it. Everything else is our job to show love to the family and show support. Again, we are here. I had the pleasure of sitting down with Jocelyn Clark and Sybil Wise. You guys know them. Can you, if they want to learn more about your services, can you share with them how they can get in touch with you?
Yes, Faith Ministries Church is fmctv.com. That's our website. We also have Facebook under Faith Ministries Church. It is in Columbus, so make sure you choose that one. I am Sybil Wise, also Sybil Sky on Instagram, and you can get me either way.
But you also do explain a little bit about what it is that you do for a business. So if they need your services.
I have several businesses. I have a life insurance agency. I do travel. I have business builders, along with all endeavors. We do startups. We also have so many different things that we do with lifestyle as a lifestylist. So helping people to build their lives by design day by day. So
Well, I think that's big, and you're a good resource. Both of you are a good resource because everyone doesn't trust everyone in their spaces.
Mm-hmm.
And when it pertains to interior design, you want someone trustworthy and talented.
Yes.
And I think you guys are good sources for that. So we'll make sure to share some of your work too.
Yes.
But please tell them how they can learn more about you.
At Jocelyn Clark on Instagram and on Facebook, Jocelyn Clark, JOSCELYN, and it's Clark with an E.
You specialize more, do you do
In
more
interior
commercial?
design, residential and commercial, but I like to do designs on a budget.
Okay.
So those who are more interested in changing their space but don't have a lot of money to do so, just doing some things to make the space look different. Yep.
Okay, you guys have an expert in budget interior design as well. Nothing that we do is in vain. Everything we do is to help you and to provide you with a resource so that you can improve your daily lives. Again, my name is Rita Fuller-Yates, and I'm your homegirl and lifestyle expert. Thank you for joining us this week, and we will see you next time. Bye-bye.
Thank you.